Today, okay, we're going to review just briefly on area of a rectangle. Okay, who can tell me how to find the perimeter of this rectangle? Who can do that? Sunny? Okay, so I can add all sides together. No, this one you don't have to. We'll start in a minute on triangles. Add all sides together. Now, is there another way? You may want to because you've been absent a day or two. Okay, Gavin? You may want to because you've been absent. All right, it'll be just a good refresher. Do I have a formula? For perimeter? Okay. So, the formula is 2 times the sum of the length and the width. Okay? So I can add these two numbers once I put them there and then multiply by 2. Okay? Either way is acceptable, and that's fine. How do I go about finding the area of this object, Garen? Okay, so I'm going to times the length times the width. Okay? Anybody have a question about finding area perimeter of a rectangle? Okay? Now, today what we're going to get into is we're going to get into triangles. If I draw a line from one corner of this rectangle to another corner of the rectangle, I have 2 triangles. So, do you think you could come up with the area of one of those triangles? How? Area. Okay, so I'm going to do the same formula. I'm going to multiply the 2 sides, the length and the width, and I'm going to cut it in half. Okay, so the area of a triangle, I would write this now, yes. You don't necessarily have to draw that, but I would write this formula because you are going to have to use it today. So area equals 1/2 length times width. Hannah, do you need to move behind Isabella so you can see? I'm kind of in your way with that board. That's fine. And does that make sense? Because 2 of them, 2 triangles, made up that rectangle. So if I only want to find the area of one of those triangles, I'm just going to take the area and cut it in half. Okay? Now, I'm going to introduce a few more little words here for you, though. So I'm going to scoot on forward. Sometimes they actually don't give you a rectangle to start with. They go ahead and give you a triangle. And they may give you measurements of, let's call this side 8 and this side 10. Okay? At this point, okay, I'm going to interchange a couple of letters. I really don't know what the length and the width of this triangle is. Okay? But I do know some other words for them. I'm going to interchange the length to the word base. And I usually use a capital B for base. Sometimes you'll see a little b on your paper. That little b doesn't mean the same as a big B. Okay? Base is what something usually sits on. Okay? The base of my cup is what? This bottom piece, right? I don't come in here and turn it upside down and sit it that way. Okay? Because it doesn't do what it's supposed to do. It pours the liquid out. So that's not the base. What's the base of this stapler? The bottom piece. I don't turn it upside down and leave it sitting there because he wobbles, and I'll try to balance him on this part. This is the base. So even your figures, your shapes, are going to have a base. Now sometimes they manipulate things where it might not fit on the base. Most of the time it does. Okay? But sometimes it doesn't. Right. Okay? When we're looking at triangles today, your base is what it's sitting on. Now, your height is what we're going to call this W. Now, what do you think height is? Yeah, that's that, but what is, describe that. If I said, what's the height of you, what am I asking? How tall you are. So what do you think I'm asking for the height of this triangle? Don't use length. You kind of said it a minute ago, it's 10, but how would you describe that? It's how tall it is from the base to the top of the triangle, right? So does everybody agree that in this case 10 measures how tall a triangle is? Okay, so in this case, if you would start with your formula, which is this one. You would copy it. You're going to copy it for a day or two just so we learn it. Then you're going to replace letters with the numbers you know. So according to this triangle, what's your base? 8. And I'm going to put that in parentheses. And what's the height? 10. Now, using my correct order of operations, what am I going to do first? I'm going to do the 8 times 10. Now, I'm going to divide it by 1/2. Divide by 2, right? Does half not mean divide by 2? Okay. And I think I knew what you meant, but if I'm reading this, this says 1/2 times 2. So I knew what you meant, but we just kind of worded it a little different. So in this case, what's half of 80? 40. Now, if my units up here were inches, what's my unit? Square inches. Because remember, area is always a square unit. If it was a rectangle, yes. But now I'm talking about a triangle. No. A stands for area. So we're finding area. Okay? Yes. Okay? Now, we're going to look at a couple of different triangles, though. Sometimes you have a triangle that might look like this. And sorry, my lines are not straight. Sometimes you'll see little dotted lines, or you might even see a straight line here. Okay? Let's say this was, let's say that's 12. Let's say this is 6, okay? We're going to say that's 3, and we're going to say this is 4. Okay? Could you find the perimeter of this triangle? By doing what? Okay, so what numbers am I going to add? Why not 3? 3 is on the inside. Everybody see that difference? So perimeter is always the outside, so I'm going to add these. I'm going to allow you to use calculators, so you're just going to put it in your calculator and get 22. Right? Because 12 plus 4 is 16, and 16 plus 6 is 22. Okay? Any question on perimeter? That's okay. Any question on perimeter, though? Okay. So now I'm going to ask you to find the area. So the first thing you're going to do is copy down your formula. And now I'm going to replace B and H. What is the base of this object? 12. And what's the height of this object? 3. 3 is my height. Now, I can get there, okay, with my 6, but I kind of went a little bit longer way, okay? I want, when you make the height of the base, you should make a 90-degree angle between these two lines. This one did not make a 90-degree angle. This one did not make a 90-degree angle. Okay, so at that point, then I would just multiply. What's 12 times 3? And what's half of 36? So my answer would be 18 square units, whatever they are. Okay, let's look at another one. I'm sorry, what? Okay, write quickly. Sometimes Things are not drawn exactly like we like them. They twist them and turn them to make sure we understand what base and height is. Okay? So I want to draw another triangle. And I want you to tell me this time what you think the base and the height is. No.
Sierra schemes to the office place.
What's the base? Base is 12 and the height is 2. And I know that because base and height have to make what? A right angle, a perpendicular. See how these butt together? They're exactly a 90 degree. Like a timeout sign. Okay? Any question on that? Okay? And then you would just plug in and solve if you had so. Now here's a funny one. Sometimes you have this. Now, and here's my actual triangle. Because it's a three-sided figure, so that's my triangle, right? What do you think this is telling me? That's telling me the height. Because if I was trying to manipulate it in here, I might not could see it very well. Now, sometimes you might even see them go with a dotted line straight down and then put 6 here. That dotted line does not tell me it's a side of my triangle. It's just telling me, again, that's my height. They're measuring from the bottom to the tallest point of my triangle. Okay? So sometimes you'll see funny things like this telling you what the height is. And again, you'll plug in and do the same type of work. Okay? Anybody have a question on base or height? Okay. I want to pause this for a minute.